Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is an upcoming game from the very beloved and famed developer From Software. They are of course acclaimed for their work on the Dark Souls universe, as well as Demon Souls, and of course Bloodborne as well on the PlayStation 4. Every single game in the From Software lineup has been quite special, but they've all been quite hard. It has been quite the challenge for the average gamer to jump into a From Software game and enjoy themselves because of how difficult the games are. Many people out there find From Software's games too difficult, too cryptic, a little bit too cumbersome, and just too hard to get into, and you can't blame those people. However, once you do get accustomed to that challenge and you dig below the surface, you'll find really great games. But as we all know, that's not possible with every single gamer. In fact, many people who pick up From Software games, especially in the Dark Souls universe, they don't finish those games, and they quit long before the end credits roll out. And that's fine because everyone likes different games, and difficult games don't attract every single person out there. So when Sekiro was shown off at E3 this year and gameplay was shown, many gamers were asking themselves the question, how hard is this game going to be? A few days ago, Sekiro's director and From Software's president, Hidetaki Miyazaki-san, said the following, the highlight being that, quote-unquote, it's probably even more challenging than previous From games. I'll link the article in the description of this video, but the basic gist is this. If you're explorative and you take your time and you try to figure out the world of this game, then it's going to be a great time, he says, and it's going to be challenging. But if you run out into the world and rush things, then the game is going to punish you even harder than any From Software game has done before that. For me, this is a great mantra for their game design because it matches up perfectly with the Dark Souls formula and the fact that if you did not prepare yourself in those games, the game was going to kick your ass and it wasn't going to really care about it. It was just going to beat you over the head over and over and over until you learned how to basically beat the game. The cornerstone of any From Software game works like this. There's very little hand-holding, you have to figure out things yourself, and you have to be patient and prepare for basically anything that's around the next corner. And what's around the next corner is probably going to kill you if you're not ready for it. So, in the past, many people have loved, including myself, have loved this process of going through these games and really challenging ourselves. Of course, this doesn't attract every single player, but for us, the Dark Souls fans out there, the hardcore fans, we love it. This does present a problem though, for getting the game into the hands of every single player out there, but I think that's the intention of these games. Just to not have complete fan service, just to not kind of bend over and give everyone a chance to play these games and a chance to win and a chance to feel good. You've got to earn it with the Souls games, and now in the same fashion of Sekiro. This is exactly why Hidetaki Miyazaki-san says, we think the level of enjoyment is going to really vary and be broad from player to player because it's the player's job to build that enjoyment by putting in however much work he or she thinks they should be doing. And quite honestly, the more you put into a From Software game, the more it gives you back, and I think that's the entire reward system with these games. If you take the time to play the game right, then you will get so much out of a From Software game. And for many people, I think their natural instinct is to go out and just go head first into a video game because that's kind of how we've been playing games since the beginning of time. Our natural instinct as gamers, since stuff like Mario, has been to run across the screen to get to the flag, or get to the goal, or get to the boss. But that is all very different because From Software's games, they challenge you by forcing you to ignore your natural instincts, and that is difficult for some people. In an age where so many gamers are impatient, and there's so many action games out there that try to quell our impatience by giving us what we want immediately, From Software says, you know what, when you play our games, you gotta be patient, you gotta pick your spots, you gotta learn about our game first, and then you can conquer it. It's a very interesting dynamic between the player and what is offered through the game. And in terms of Sekiro, I think this is gonna lend itself to exploration, because they have said in many of the interviews and in E3 that this game is gonna be much more open-ended than a Dark Souls game. I think deep down they really want you to explore the nooks and crannies of what the game world has to offer and not force yourself through the game like you do in so many other games. So it makes sense that the game is so difficult, just like all the other prior From Software games, because it's kind of a natural gate for you not to pass through because you really can't unless you've familiarized yourself with the game and gotten good at it. It's kind of how From Software deals with progression, basically, right? Making a difficult, explorative video game is challenging because if you make the game too easy, the player doesn't have to think and they won't get engaged fully. So you've got to force the player to think in these games, and From Software does it with difficulty. Me and other gamers were really excited about this game because there's not a lot of difficult games out there and ones that have such refined gameplay. You know, if you take a look at this trailer, this game is looking quite slick and creamy. And if it's got challenging combats, really great controls, and a great atmosphere, which it looked like it does, it's probably going to be a really interesting game, especially because it's difficult, and it's really tough to find a challenging game, one that is not challenging for the sake of being challenging, but challenging because it means something to the game. Of course, artificially making the game difficult is something that is a problem in this industry, the challenge being for From Software to make it difficult for a reason, and we'll have to soon find out if that's actually true or not in this case. I just hope the difficulty doesn't pan out in the way some of the Dark Souls games did, where you had to exploit the game because it was so difficult. You know, bring enemies in doorways that they couldn't walk through and stand behind them and shoot arrows until they died. That's a big no-no for me. But it does happen because there are so many people out there that do buy Dark Souls games and they just cannot make any progress. They sit there for hours and they can't even get to the second bonfire in some of these games, so they just smash their head on their keyboard and they never play the game again after that day. So it's really difficult to balance challenge and difficulty in a game that actually wants you to think it means something to the actual gameplay experience and isn't just hard for the sake of being hard. So I think From Software has their work cut out for them with Sekiro, or I guess maybe Sekiro, or however you want to pronounce this game. I'm trying to do it with some Japanese flair, so don't get on my case if it sounds pretty bad. But anyway, Sekiro is looking really great. They're just going to have to work pretty hard to make sure the balance is correct with the difficulty so that it gels with the combat, it makes sense, it means something, and everyone can have a chance to get over those obstacles. But I'm happy at the end of the day that the game is actually going to be at least, if not more, difficult than anything that has come before it, because bring it on. Challenging games don't come around very often. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think about this message of difficulty in the From Software lineage down below in the comments section. Have a great day, and if you did enjoy the video, go ahead and thumbs it up, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness. Until then, you guys have a terrific day.